Recording in progress. Recording in progress.
No video.
The video may be back. I see the video now back on Zoom, but I think we have no audio.
Okay. So we're about to go to petitions and requests from members of the public.
Member McKinney, can you hear us?
It's still not picking up the captions on the down below.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make sure that we take a 5-minute recess to let them.
Okay, a 5-minute recess. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll recess. We'll pause for 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Hey, folks online, hopefully, although there's an echo. We're taking a 5-minute recess to sort things out. Yeah. Testing, testing. Can you hear us online? Testing, testing. Can you hear us online?
Recording in progress.
Testing, testing. Can you hear us online yet? Oh, I hear.
Yes, we can hear you. I can hear you.
Excellent.
Okay, I hereby call this meeting of Greenbelt City Council back to order after our recess. I don't think we need to vote on this, but let's go ahead. It's been 5 minutes. So, at this time, we're going to hear petitions and requests from members of the public. This portion of the meeting allows residents to bring new matters to the attention of the city.
Test.
Councilmember McKinney, can you hear us? No. Check 1, 2, 3.
I have the notes from the declaration on my, should I read the Declaration of Independence again?
I really think that at some point, we should just go ahead with the meeting. We have minutes. If we're limited in our capacity to Zoom and to stream, that's a problem, but, you know, the people here in the room and the process are the most important thing.
But Councilmember McKinney can't participate.
Te- Can you hear us again? Can you hear us now?
You're just very low.
Okay,
Captions are picking it up good.
okay, so is that any better?
It's coming up a little bit, but still very low.
Yes, keep trying. I don't know if there's things in the audio booth that they can do to adjust the volume. I can just keep talking in a steady tone of voice. Can you hear us now with the volume? How is the volume? Is that getting any better?
You would just have to project if you stay at that level.
Okay, so we might just have to speak up. Testing, testing, is that better?
A little bit better.
Okay, so we might just have to speak up into the microphones a little bit more.
Okay, at this time, we're going to hear petitions and requests from members of the public. This portion of the meeting allows residents to bring new matters to the attention of City Council and the city administration, including requests for city action or concerns not listed on tonight's agenda. Speakers may address council and the administration for up to 5 minutes. Council, we receive these comments, but usually we do not take immediate action during this portion of the meeting. Depending on the issue, council may refer the matter to the city manager, city staff, or advisory boards and request additional information or consider placing an item on a future agenda. So we ask that speakers keep their remarks focused, respectful, and civil so that all residents have an opportunity to be heard. So at this time on the list, Madam Clerk, do you know who is first listed to come up?
Yes, Ms. Rosenthal.
Hi, Laura Rosenthal, 2 Court Garden Way. I know you're probably not allowed to answer questions, but I just noticed 2 things on the consent agenda. One was an interview room in the police department. I was just wondering what an interview room was and why you have to contract with an outside company. And the other thing was it was a purchase of police vehicles. In the past, it would mention the name or the make of the vehicle, and here it doesn't mention it. Plus, I know somewhere maybe in all those little charts you have here, it mentions the cost or something, these little tiny pieces of paper, but I'm not sure. So I don't know, is anyone allowed to explain to me what an interview room is and what type of police vehicle is being purchased?
I believe that the city manager has the discretion to address those questions during his administrative report. Thank you for the questions.
Okay, great, thank you.
Who's next? Is it Mr.
Mr. Weissman?
Ms. Weissman?
Michael Hartman.
Mr. Hartman?
Michael Hartman, 2 Court Garden Way. As sometimes happens, Laura is in my brain. My petition is that I believe that we need more information on a lot of these consent agenda items. The reason that I suggested that the petitions and requests be before the vote on the consent agenda was so that people at the meeting could look at the consent agenda and decide if they wanted more information or if they felt it should be discussed by the entire council. But there's a couple of items in addition to what Ms. Rosenthal said. I just think that there should be more information for people who don't have access to the entire package. I'm sure a lot of this is in there, but it's not here at the meeting. So I would request that when the consent agenda items are presented on the agenda, that there be enough information that people would know whether they felt more information was needed or not. To basic questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Gervasi?
Hi, Frank Gervasi, 163 Research Road, and
Peter Wojciechowski, 6622 Lake Park Drive.
we have a sister city request. We distributed the for a city in Ukraine called Voznesensk. Should I read what for the record at this point, or?
You can certainly do that. You've got about 4 minutes.
Okay, great. So Voznesensk is a city of approximately 30,000 residents, similar to Greenbelt with an estimated 25,000 people. It was founded in 1795. It did not have electricity until 1933 and running water until 1938. It was controlled by the Tsars and before that the Turks, but by the Tsars, and then suffered greatly under Stalin's rule until the Nazis occupied it from 41 to 44, where it got even worse. It remained part of the Soviet Union until this century and has been fighting for democracy and independence since before 2014. It's been a long process for them. It was designated a hero city, honoring the residents who held off the Russian advance in 2022. That battle, which is, there's a little book called The Stubborn Little Town. There's a book about that battle that I'll share with you guys at some point. It was designated a hero city, honoring the residents who held off the Russian advance in 2022. That battle saw much shelling of the city, civilians taking up arms against the invaders, and the locals blowing up their bridge over the adjoining Boo River? Boo River to stop the enemy. That bought time until the Ukrainian army could push them back to the area you see on the map in orange. And I'm sorry it's not on screen, but I gave to the city council, this is a map of Ukraine, which you've probably seen parts that have been, still occupied, and you can see how far the Russians advanced to get to that where they was literally stopped. Anyway, I included 8 photos altogether, 2 of their classrooms, which is a lovely little school. I've seen many pictures. Our former resident, Tatiana Orlova, has visited them a couple of times, as has her daughter. They live about 3 hours away in a city called Mykolaiv. Anyway, so we have a picture of this school. It's a boarding school, and it hosts 230 children, of which 20 are orphans, which Greenbelt Refugee Aid has been contributing to the orphans there. At the far right are 4 of those resident kids, children that orphans that we support. Anyway, Greenbelt Refugee Aid has been helping those orphans and families there, so we have become known to them. Sister cities are primarily a cultural and gift exchange format, and we can learn much from them as they can benefit from us. And I pictured below some of their children's beautiful artwork, and it is amazing. We're going to have a display in the Labor Day Festival of the Ukrainian children from this school. And we're going to send them some of our video stuff like we had last year, Anyway, maybe, Peter, you want to tell them a little more? Now, I know we have sister cities coming up later in the agenda, so, but Voznesensk does have other sister cities. You want to mention a few, Peter?
Voznesensk is a notable smaller city in Ukraine. So in many ways it seems compatible with Greenbelt for size, for its role and other features. And so the idea came up. We discussed it informally for quite a few months, and we brought it up now.
You have any questions?
We still have 1 minute.
Oh, we still have 1 minute? Well, we don't have to eat every minute. That's okay. Okay, well, if no questions, then we'll see you guys later when it comes up as an agenda item.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Hey, are there any other petitions or requests?
Bill Orleans, a resident. I'm glad that a reference has been made to tonight's consent agenda, and I look forward to the city manager at his discretion choosing to respond to the question posed by Ms. Rosenthal. I have a general question. I actually don't know. I've been coming here a long time. I was always under the impression that council sort of set the agenda for the meeting with contributions certainly from city staff, including the city manager. But tonight's consent agenda specifically seems, and when you compare it with some of the items that are on the full agenda for discussion, seems a little bit top-heavy as regards what council is simply going to agree to by adopting the consent agenda. One of these items, I think over a 5-year period, it's $240,000 for if I skimmed it very quickly, the in-patrol car cameras. That's something that I think I and others might want to hear a further discussion about. So again, I don't know who determined what was going to be on tonight's consent agenda and what would not, but I'd like to think that council might want to, since there's already been a question raised, and I'm reinforcing that question, maybe not adopt the consent agenda and have a full discussion on all the items therein. Thank you.
Thank you. And once again, during administrative reports, at the city manager's discretion, if he wants to comment on those inquiries, he certainly can. Hey, did anyone else sign up? Okay. So let me just once again, council, we received these comments. They're logged by the city clerk. They're referred through city staff and the city manager. Council can either put them on a future agenda, request additional information, or sometimes just mull over the suggestion and take it into consideration. So we appreciate the petitions and requests that come forward. That is going to roll us into the next agenda item, and that's the consent agenda. I'm just wondering, are there any modifications proposed to the consent agenda? Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, one consent, I would like to slightly modify the item on 5I. Just to make it clear that the recommendation from staff is to authorize option A that's in the proposal for a retainer rather than an hourly for the consultant. If any of my colleagues would like to pull that off of the consent agenda, I think it's in the recommendation and in the full documentation. I just would like to amend 5I to say we are recommending to engage legislative services in the coming year using the retainer model.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think because it's a recommendation to authorize the city manager to take an action, council can still consult with the city manager about the specifics of the recommendation or his authorization. But if you'd like to, did you move to pull
Yes,
off?
I would like to, no, I don't want to, I am not proposing.
Would you like to make a?
I am proposing to amend the consent agenda item 5I to include the language at the end for the coming year as a retainer model.
Would you like to make a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
I believe I just did.
Is there a second?
I mean, is that not, unless others, or to make that amendment? I would like to amend, so I guess maybe we need to do it one at a time. I would like to amend this one consent agenda item.
I don't think we have to vote on that.
Okay.
So would someone like to make a motion to adopt the consent agenda as amended?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
Aye.
carries. Thank you, Councilmember McKinney. And then that brings us to the agenda itself. Are there any modifications to the agenda? And if there are none, could I please have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Bernice has made the motion. Is there a council member who's willing to second that?
Second.
Very good, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you so much. There's no discussion. Please, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you very much. The motion carries. So that is going to bring us right over to administrative reports, I believe. actually presentations. So many items on the consent agenda. Hey, presentations. So we have a new economic development manager that's joined the city staff, Jessica Maylander. And Jessica, I believe, is here tonight. Mr. City Manager, will you introduce our new economic development manager? And
Thank you,
come
Mr.
to
Mayor.
the
Good
podium.
evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Good evening, residents. I am excited to introduce our new Economic Development Manager, Ms. Jessica Maylander. Welcome, Jessica. We're excited to have her because she brings so much expertise in small business development, on grant management, Main Street development. She's run Main Street organizations herself, and most recently was the grants manager for the Small Business and Economic Development branch in DC government. So we're really excited that we were able to recruit her. And we look forward to all the wonderful contributions she's going to make to move our economic development plan forward. And Ms. Maylander, I don't want to steal your thunder, so please.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Council. Thank you, City of Greenbelt. I'm thrilled to be here. I did a version of this introduction on my 4th day at the Greenbelt B2B Business Expo a couple of weeks ago. So a couple of you got to see me introduce myself then. And I'm very excited to be here. As Josue mentioned, I come from the DC Department of Small and Local Business Development, where I managed almost $10 million in our city's small business development grant portfolio, along with a team of a couple of others. And before that, I was a Main Street manager in DC for quite a number of years. So my background is in local, on-the-ground, place-based economic development. That's really where my passion is. I don't think that economic development and sense of place are at odds with each other. I think they, in fact, should go hand in hand. And so I'm very excited to be here in Greenbelt, which has such a great history and a sense of place, and to be picking up on the great economic development strategic plan that's already underway. And so we're going to be really doing a lot of business retention and expansion programs and other sort of Greenbelt small and local business revitalization work, all of which I am not really started on because it's my 3rd week, but we will get there. So again, excited to work with and meet all of you. And thank you for having me here tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. You come to Greenbelt with an impressive portfolio of skills and experience. So it's really fantastic to have you on board. And I know I, for one, and the rest of council and the public want to be very, very supportive of everything you do to move the city ahead, just in terms of its local economy, regional economy, and our presence in the DMV.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Anybody from council have any questions or comments? Okay, looking forward to working.
Do it. I really, really love your background. I'm super excited. I think that's exactly what Greenbelt needs. And I love your statement that sense of place and actual revitalization and business development are not at odds. We can really do both.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so
Great.
much.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Maylander. And I just want to recognize Ms. Lander. She's hit the ground running from day one. Came right into the middle of what we just started, the business, small business conference, Greenbelt Small Business Expo. And additionally, she's been able to pick up the project of the facade improvement grants. Just for the background for the audience, we received 2 grant awards for facade improvements for the Roosevelt Center. And we just completed our first round of grant applications where we received 6 grant applications totaling nearly $150,000, which is the full first round of funding. So we're well on our way to get that money right into our local businesses so we can have those much needed improvements in the Roosevelt Center.
Okay. Hey, that brings us to the next section of the agenda. We've got a couple of statements of the record for closed sessions. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah. So I move that in accordance with the general provisions article section 3-303 306C2 of the annotated code of the Public General Laws of Maryland, I move that the minutes of tonight's meeting reflect that the council met in closed session on Monday, June 29th, 2026 at 7:45 p.m. in the council chambers. Council held this closed session in accordance with Section 3-305B1, 3, and 8 of the General Provisions Article of the Annotated Code of the Public General Laws of Maryland. 1, to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. 2, to consider the acquisition of real property for a public purpose and matters directly related thereto. And 3, to consult with staff, consultants, or other individuals about pending or potential litigation. The purpose of this meeting was 1, to address personnel matters over which this public body has jurisdiction, 2, to discuss real estate, and 3, to consult with staff, consultants, or other individuals about pending or potential litigation. Voting to close the session, Councilmember Fritz, yes. Councilmember Niesel, yes. Councilmember McKinney, yes. Councilmember Pompey, yes. Councilmember Pope, yes. Mayor Pro Tem Weaver, yes. Mayor Jordan, yes. In addition to council, staff present was Josue Samaron, City Manager. No other individuals in attendance, and no actions were taken.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Madam Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Fritz?
Yes.
Councilmember Niesel?
Yes.
Councilmember McKinney?
Yes.
Councilmember Pompey?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Weaver?
Yes.
Mayor Jordan?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay, thank you so much. And we have one more.
In accordance with the General Provisions Article, Section 3-06C2 of the Annotated Code of the Public General Laws of Maryland, I move that the minutes of tonight's meeting reflect that the council met in closed session on Wednesday, July 29th, 2026 at 7:32 p.m. in the council chambers. Council held this closed meeting in accordance with Section 3-305B1 of the General Provisions Article of the Annotated Code of the Public General Laws of Maryland. 1, to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, or any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. The purpose of this meeting was to address personnel matters over which this public body has jurisdiction. Voting to close the session, Councilmember Fritz, yes. Councilmember Niesel, yes. Councilmember McKinney, yes. Councilmember Pompey, yes. Councilmember Pope, yes. Mayor Pro Tem Weaver, yes. Mayor Jordan, yes. No staff members were present or any other individuals, and no action was taken.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Niesel. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Fritz?
Aye.
Councilmember Niesel?
Yes.
Councilmember McKinney?
Yes.
Councilmember Pompey?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Weaver?
Yes.
Mayor Jordan?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay, thank you so much. And that is going to take us right into the administrative reports. City Manager Samaron, how are you tonight?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council. Good evening, citizens. I'll address the questions that were raised during the petitions and requests portion. There are 3 contracts under the consent agenda. The 3 of them related to the police department. The first one, it has to do with the interview cameras. As you know, we have it's an interview room where we anyone that needs to be questioned, there's a protocol that we must follow, that the room is recorded, the audio is recorded, and it's all synchronized, and the recordings are associated with a case file or a call for service inquiry. So it's very particular, the technology requirement that we follow. It also, the system that we use also is synchronized with all the other body-worn cameras and other recording devices that are part of our fleet. That includes the in-car cameras, which is also a contract that council is approving. So just a overview on the contracts. The first one is a 5-year contract that's total $55,200, broken over a 5-year period. So what you're approving today is $9,681 of expenditure for that contract. The reason it's on the list for approval is because it's a multi-year 5-year program. Otherwise, anything under 10,000 falls under my authority. But because this is a multi-year, it is our practice to bring these contracts to council, and they are extended on a 1-year basis. Hence why the second contract is a year 4 of a 5-year contract, and that totals $54,180, and that's for year 4. This is a contract that was in place before my arrival, as you can see from the invoice that's in the packet. So this is just executing the year 4 of the year 5 contract. Again, it's our practice to bring these to council on one-year intervals. And so you're approving tonight is the year 4 payment as part of the fiscal year calendar.
Well, thank you. So just to point this out, council in its infinite wisdom, we actually asked with these Axon camera technology contracts, although they're multi-year contracts, council specifically asked to have them come up on the consent agenda so that we can, if things are changing, we would have a chance to weigh in. So I just want to add that.
Yes, that's correct. And there's also the appropriation authority that you want to have
Yes, of course.
tight control over. So the third contract is vehicle purchase. During the budget development process, the police department had requested replacement of 15 police cars. We do not have the funds to replace all 15 cars, so we try to do as many as we can. This year, what we're able to replace are 3 police cars. The police car model that we have adopted is the Ford Explorer Interceptor hybrid vehicle. That is our vehicle of preference. And so that's what's on the contract is for 3 of those vehicles. There's a little over $46,000 for each vehicle. So we've got a little over $150,000 for the 3 vehicles and the upfitting of the 3 vehicles.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So on the weekly report, being mindful of time, I'll address the most important ones. I did a walkthrough of the Greenbelt Fire Department station in preparation of having career staff return sometime in August or September. We're not sure what the full staffing model will look like come August or September. We've been given certain guarantees or certainties with whatever certainties the fire department can make that we would have some staffing back in August or September. This has been challenging, but we look forward to having our career firefighters back in Greenbelt. There are going to be things that we will need to do to the fire station. Part of the walkthrough was to do a full assessment of what systems need to be updated and improved upon at the fire department. So I will be getting a list, and some will be squarely our responsibility as the owners of the fire station. So I anticipate that we will have some expenditures to prepare the station for the return of the career firefighters. Great news, the groundbreaking of the Spring Hill Elementary took place this week, so we're really excited that that work, that demolition work of that school has started. It's going to last 2 years. The assistant city manager and myself will be meeting with the school administration in the coming weeks, and one of the topics we will be addressing is the new traffic pattern at the new temporary location for the Spring Hill Lake Elementary School, which is the Dora Kennedy site. So we look forward to having that meeting and assisting Spring Hill Lake Elementary School in any way that we can to ensure a smooth transition into the new facility and the start of the new school year. I just briefly mentioned earlier that we have received 6 grant applications for the facade improvement grant. That's totaling $150,000. We intend to get that money out in the community right away, and that's half of our total facade improvement allocation of $300,000. Few things that we will be bringing to council in the coming weeks. We are working on a 1-year contract extension with Compost Crew. As a reminder, Compost Crew is our compost collection service. The previous budget cycle, council approved a subsidy for the program participants. Part of that money is included in the 2027 budget. We do need a contract extension for that service, so we'll be bringing that to council. We've received good news from the county that we have received our final strategic wayfinding plan. And the reason that it's on my list is because it's something that council will approve sometime in the near future. But also we had submitted a grant application for wayfinding for the Roosevelt Center, and I'm sorry we were not successful, but we'll at least have an approved wayfinding plan that come back to council. There's a lot on the agenda and a lot on the administrative report, but I welcome any questions you may have on the report.
I just want to congratulate you and the city staff. If you could pass on our regards for a successful 4th of July. even with the extreme temperature that day and the threat of rain, things seemed to flow pretty well, and everything kind of came together with a bang at the end.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I relayed those kind words.
Questions or comments or other thoughts from council? Councilmember McKinney? Any questions or comments to the city manager? Hearing none, let's go ahead and move to the next section of the agenda. And that's legislation. And item number 10 is an ordinance of the City of Greenbelt amending the city labor code regarding Article 8, which is for second reading and adoption. So included in the packet is a ordinance to amend Article 8 Labor Code Chapter 13 in the Greenbelt City Code. Article 8 establishes the procedures governing collective bargaining and labor management relations for designated city employees. Councilmember Pompey, you introduced this ordinance at the last meeting, and it's recommended that we go ahead and adopt this ordinance. We've done quite a bit of work to get to this point, and I believe some of the changes that have happened, not a lot of changes, just kind of redefining the classifications and to better align with the National Labor Relations Board standards. So, Councilmember Pompey, do you want to go ahead and introduce the ordinance?
Sure. For second reading and possible adoption, an ordinance to amend Chapter 13 Personnel of the Greenbelt City Code for the purpose of amending Article 8 Labor Code.
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Fritz is seconded. We can have some discussion now. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, I would just like to propose an amendment of I found some typos and some inconsistencies, some text changes. So I apologize, I didn't get this there's some copies available, but I didn't get it in the packet in time, but none of it is substantive. It is all grammatical or other minor fixes. So here's what I'm suggesting as an amendment: to fix some grammar in section 13-232, the definitions, just to make it parallel in structure to the previous clauses and fit the introduction. There's some extra spaces in a couple places. And then one of the outlines, there's missing a letter, so it goes, it should be there should be A, B, C, D, but it goes A, C, B, C, and there are four clauses, there should be 4 letters. And then some capitalization in the Employee Relations Board, Labor Commissioner, and City Council, just making sure that those are capitalized. These are the places where they are not capitalized and so need to be corrected. So these are just, none of them are substantive changes, just minor fixes before we publish the final code.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of the amendment to the ordinance? I believe we can just do this with a voice vote. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
Let's do a roll call.
Roll call, okay.
Please.
And these are not substantive changes, so I suppose for the sake of just being sure, let's go ahead and do a roll call. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Fritz?
Yes.
Councilmember Niesel?
Yes.
Councilmember McKinney?
Yes.
Councilmember Pompey? Yes. Mayor Pro Tem Weaver?
Yes.
Mayor Jordan?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Oh, fantastic. So, Councilmember Pompey, this work that we've done, it's been quite a bit of work to get us to this point. Basically modernizing the city's labor framework, protecting the operational integrity, and outlining the collective bargaining boundaries, the unit boundaries. So, would you like to say anything speaking to the ordinance at this point?
Sure. I just really want to thank City Council, the City Manager, and City staff, all of whom worked on, everyone who worked on this ordinance, as well as the charter amendment to allow our city staff to bargain collectively. I'm really proud of council for all the work that they put into this, how thorough they have been, the questions that they asked, and how intentional we've been about making sure that this amendment will apply to as many employees in the city as it can. And I am really glad that, the city of Greenbelt, who hosts a Labor Day a 3-day Labor Day festival every year, will now have collective bargaining labor rights for our employees. I think that's only fitting, but now that will be onto the workers and the city staff to bargain and negotiate for a fair contract.
Well, thank you very much. Other council members, comments? Councilmember Fritz.
Yes, I want to thank a lot of people. I want to thank Councilmember Pompey for her leadership on this legislation. I want to thank the workers of Public Works for coming. It's not easy always to put yourself out there and say, we want a voice at the table. I know that this has been a long process, you know, in the scheme of the city, maybe not a long process, but in the scheme of how long your petition's been acted, and we've had to go through this multiple iterations of this. I want to say thank you to the workers for actually stepping up and saying that you want to be stakeholders with a voice in this city, that you care enough about this job to actually stand up and say, we deserve our rights and we want to actually see those rights formalized, and this is going to allow you to enact those rights. I want to say that I do have one concern, but I do want to move forward so that Public Works can begin the process of bargaining if they so choose. Something I'd like to come back to, and I'd like to work with the city manager and city staff and all the stakeholders on the language regarding strikes and lockouts. I don't agree with this language, but I do think that it's important that we move forward. And the city manager, I think, has good faith concerns about, you know, public safety and the ability of our enterprise, the city of Greenbelt, to operate. And I want to work through those in a deliberative process. I don't want that to be rushed, but I do want to have a fuller conversation after this time so that we can talk about that, because you know, we're writing a code right now, but I also believe in the First Amendment. I believe in the 13th Amendment. I believe in the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution. Those are very clear on the rights of people, and those rights should not be broadly construed, or those rights should always be broadly construed, and any restrictions on those rights should always be narrowly constrained. And I think that our current language does prevent workers from exercising their rights in good faith. And ultimately, strike bans don't work. They don't actually prevent strikes. Most public sector strikes happen in jurisdictions where they are nominally illegal. So the best way to prevent a strike is to bargain in good faith with your workforce. So, and I'll just close by saying that I know that in previous iterations, some people have raised a lot of fears about you know, the potential costs of this, but I just want to say that in Greenbelt, we pride ourselves in the amount of resources we expend, both volunteer hours and city resources, to promote democracy, to promote the idea that everyone has a voice. And that is not cheap to have a well-functioning democracy, but we know that the outcomes are better when all of our people, whether they work in Public Works or whether they're 911 call takers or whether they work in our Department of Recreation, when they feel like they have a voice. And I will say that I spend a lot of time at this dais and in meetings talking about personnel issues. And I'm hoping that this will open a new phase of more harmonious, equitable, just, diverse, and inclusive governance for our city. So I am so proud to vote for this legislation tonight, and then to continue the work from there on.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, Councilmember McKinney, since you're online, did you have any comments?
No, just I think want to reiterate what Councilmember Pompey and Councilmember Fritz had echoed. Thank you to the team for seeing this through, as well as the Public Works staff for just lifting their voices. So thank you.
Thank you. Other council members, any comments? Because I think we do need to take some public comments. And let's go ahead. I believe, Mr. Orleans, you had your hand up first.
I don't know whether it was first, but it was a long time ago. I had my hand raised when I heard Mayor Pro Tem Weaver say that she had only some non-substantive grammatical, typographical changes to be made, and that she had not had time to forward those changes to the city clerk or the city staff for inclusion on tonight's agenda. I'd like to suggest that they voted on that already, and they're about to adopt this proposed charter amendment. And as it stands right now, we don't know what's in it. Now, I like to think that those changes were not recommended by either Mr. Deloach or the folks from Jackson Lewis. They were entirely observations, grammatical and typographical, made by the Mayor Pro Tem. But we don't know that. We don't see that. The changes have not been presented to us on what the mayor wanted to be a voice vote, but it was a roll call. Those changes have been accepted by council, and we don't know what they are. That said, I appreciate the comments from Mr. Fritz with regard to one element of this charter change. I'd like to suggest another that should concern him and others in the room, and that is that this charter amendment is very proscriptive. It determines who is exempt. It determines who is a managerial. And I would suggest to you that traditionally in collective bargaining, and in some of this discussion this has been alluded to, there's a give and take. Some people might be exposed to confidential information, but they need not be. They could be considered part of the collective bargaining unit. And if there's confidential information to be typed up, that could be a confidential managerial person who does that rather than the secretary who otherwise is not possessing any confidential information other than the fact that she or he was typing this up. That's one example. I think it's too proscriptive. I think the organization chosen by Public Works employees when they're certified and negotiation should have the opportunity to negotiate with management as to who should be in and who should not be in the bargaining unit. But I thank you all. I'm leaving trying to emphasize that when we leave here tonight, we don't know what they adopted a few minutes ago because we've not seen it. And I think we ought to be concerned about that. Thank you.
So, Mr. Orleans, I've put it back up on the screen. As you can see, it's a minor grammatical fix because the previous clauses had the gerund form, and so it shouldn't have been participates, it should have been participation because the previous things had gerund form. That there were some extra spaces, which no, I did not consult the lawyer about the extra spaces. There is one place where it was mislettered. There was a clause that was a separate clause that should have been lettered separately, and that was it. So it should have been 4 clauses rather than 3, not changing the text, just adding the lettering. And multiple places where the capitalization was not consistent. Some places it capitalized Employee Relations Board and Labor Commissioner and City Council, other places it didn't. These are the places that it needed to be capitalized. So this is what we voted on, Mr. Orleans, these extremely minor corrections so just to make it clear.
Thank you so much. Other comments from the public? Yeah, please.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. Council, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say, first, Michael Canavan, 51 Ridge. I have lived here for 40 years and have worked for the city for 6 now. And I just want to say that we're so happy to have the support to form a union and that you've given us a process with which to be able to do so. We're grateful to live in a city that leads by example and lives its values through actions rather than words. We'd like to express our gratitude to everyone who has supported us from day one. As a resident, as an employee, this is a wonderful thing for me to see. I grew up in Greenbelt, and now I'm raising my family in Greenbelt. This is the city that I love. This is the city that I am going to be in for a while. So I just want to thank you all again for everything that this has codified today. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, don't thank us yet. We haven't voted yet. Anybody else? Yes, please.
No, I just want to say thanks also and just mention, Louisa, Robbie, Brian, Nate was here, but he had to leave. 100 years of experience working in public works, and they all came out tonight, and there's, we're all here unifyingly saying thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Hartman?
Michael Hartman, 2 Court Garden Way. In several places, you refer to the Employee Relations Board, and I'm wondering if you could explain who is on the board, what they do, what their charge is, and how they're selected. Thank you.
I think we can do that. Madam Clerk, do you have the description handy by any chance, Mr. City Manager?
I think I might have it, actually. Would you like me to read this?
Yes, please.
Okay, so this is what's on the city website about the Employee Relations Board. It has 5 members and meets only as needed. The purpose of the Employee Relations Board is to conduct hearings when a classified permanent employee receiving a dismissal, suspension, or demotion files an appeal, then render a decision that stands as the decision of the City of Greenbelt. Here grievance complaints, make findings, and make recommendations to the City Council, review personnel policies and practices as they relate to appeals and grievances brought before this board, and make recommendations to the City Council and the City Manager for the purpose of resolving difficulties prior to a need to file an appeal or grievance. So that's the plain language that's on the website. The actual language for the ERB is actually in the city charter.
And we've had some transitions on the Employee Relations Board. The chair had been Bob Rudd. A member had been Stan Zirkin. Mrs. Scianella was one of the members. The 4th member, I'm blanking on her last name. Miss Lolly Gaines, and there was another one as well.
There's 5 total members.
They're appointed the same way we appoint people to any city advisory board, so that people apply, we interview them, we deliberate, council interviews them, we deliberate, and then should there be spaces on the board, they're appointed.
I believe there's some additional questions that go to the Employee Relations Board during interviews, as suggested by our legal counsel. And I believe they also have to file an additional disclosure, a financial disclosure. I think that's correct. No?
I don't think they have to do the financial disclosure.
Down. And the 5th member is Lisa Bahasik.
Okay. Ms. Rosenthal, please.
Laura Rosenthal, 2 Court Garden Way. Just to follow up on Mr. Hartman's question, this isn't the group that censured Mr. Roberts, is it? Behavior unbecoming or something? I'm hoping that's not this group.
No, in fact, council was the one who passed the censure on Mr. Roberts, so that was not an advisory board or group, it was council's decision.
Well, there was a group that made a statement.
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
I thought it was
Staff Jedi Committee.
That was what?
The Staff Jedi Committee.
Great, thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments, directly related to this ordinance that we can take before we take a vote? Anybody online? Well, I'm not seeing anybody online. So, Madam Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Fritz?
Absolutely.
Councilmember Niesel?
Yes.
Councilmember McKinney?
Yes.
Councilmember Poppy?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Weaver?
Yes.
Mayor Jordan?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay. We've got a lot on the agenda, so we need to keep moving. And item number 12 Item number 11 is an ordinance, a resolution to enlarge the city's corporate boundaries by annexing approximately 10 acres of contiguous parkland known as the Lanham Boys and Girls Club. Because this is open land owned by the Boys Club, there's no resident referendum or complex service extension plans required. WSSC and PEPCO already serve the area. So given the city's zoning and development control over adjacent land, there's no real property tax implications. And it's a beautiful piece of land and just sort of stretches our boundary from Trinity Assembly of God Church over to the Beltway. So let's see, included in the packet is the resolution, and this is a resolution for a first reading. And I would actually like to introduce that, if I could.
I'll second.
Do we need to read I think we need to read the title and we don't actually have to second it because it's first reading.
Okay, so this is an item for first reading. So it's a charter amendment resolution of the City Council of Greenbelt enlarging corporate boundaries of the City of Greenbelt by annexing into corporate lands and the City of Greenbelt lands contiguous and adjoining to the city's existing corporate boundary property, commonly known as the Lanham Boys Club, consisting of approximately 10 plus or minus acres of the land in total located generally at the Lanham Boys Club. Did I do that correctly? Okay, so that will come up at a future council meeting. I know there's a certain amount of waiting time. We've announced this publicly. How soon can we move forward in adopting this annexation? Is it 45 days?
I think
We had charter amendment resolutions require proper notice to the paper for 21 days.
1 days, okay. That's good.
So this could possibly come back at our August meeting.
Does the
City manager.
timing work?
After that, it's 45 days when it become effective.
I'm excited about that. We can discuss it in greater detail at that time. Let's go ahead and move on to item number 13. And that has to do with County Bill 069.
no, you skipped one, you skipped 12.
Did I skip 12? Oh my, that's the one on the negotiated purchases. So this would be a resolution to authorize the negotiated purchase of certain goods and services from various vendors as enumerated herein, with a total fiscal year purchase of each value exceeding $10,000. And this is an item for first reading, possibly for suspension of the rules and for a second reading and adoption. So each year, the city does business with vendors, and many of them, the individual transaction is less than the $10,000 limit, but the aggregate goes above the $10,000 limit on which the city manager needs to have the approval of city council. So obtaining bids from these vendors is not always warranted, not always needed, because some of them are sole source or the best source for purchase. In other instances, the city purchases are based on bids taken by other government agencies. We frequently piggyback on bids from the state of Maryland, from Prince George's County, and from the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments. So there's a cooperative purchase program that we participate in as well. So that's the resolution. I don't know if you want to put the information up on the screen, or if council members have any comments, or if the city manager would like to speak a little bit about the new vendors that are on the list. Please.
Hi, I'd like to introduce for first reading and suspension of the rules, a resolution to authorize the negotiated purchase price of certain goods and services from various vendors as enumerated herein when the total fiscal year purchases from each vendor exceed $10,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mayor Pro Tem has seconded. Yeah, city manager, any discussion?
We have to suspend the rules before we can have discussion on it, correct? Is that correct? So we have to do a roll call on that?
Councilmember Fritz,
Yes.
Councilmember Niesel,
Yes.
Councilmember McKinney,
Yes.
Councilmember Poppy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Weaver,
Yes.
Mayor Jordan.
Yes.
6.
Okay.
Motion carries.
The motion carries. So here we are. Would you like to reintroduce the second?
Yes. For second reading and possible adoption, a resolution to authorize the negotiated purchase of certain goods and services from various vendors as enumerated herein when total fiscal year purchases from each vendor exceed $10,000.
Second?
Second
Mayor Pro
again.
Tem is seconded. Okay, discussion. Mr. City Manager, would you like to comment at all about the list or any new additions or thoughts about how we go about doing this and moving forward?
The last question's a loaded question. This is necessitated by the strict limitations placed on the city manager for contracting and procuring services. The city manager's limit is $10,000, which is the lowest among their peer municipalities. So it necessitates this action where a list of vendors is put before council for council approval. This has been a process that has been followed for many, many years. So the list has just continues to grow. The new vendors on the list are highlighted in green. If you're looking at page 127 out of 193, the rows that are highlighted in green are the new vendors, and I'll go through some of them. Angel Armor is body armor for the police department. This has been found through a competitive pricing process. In the fiscal year 2026, we spent a total of $10,475 in body armor gear with that company. We added API Source, which is a Greenbelt marketing business. We spent a total of $5,911 in 2026, and we expect to continue doing business with this vendor. Apple 4 is our new vehicle vendor. In 2024, we spent $112,000 on police vehicles. What you've approved tonight is a little over $150,000 in police vehicle purchases. Those are coming from Apple Ford. Blue Whale is our EV charging station provider for the community center and library. We spent in 2026 a total of a little over $100,000. We have other EV projects that we're planning to execute this year, particularly the Buddy Attic EV charging stations. And I can't commit to any vendor, but this vendor has worked with us on this project, and I expect that they'll be part of maybe submit a proposal for the next EV projects. Bridgeport Capital Funding, Mr. Mayor, you should be very familiar with this team. This is part of the COG contracts for fuel services, and we buy our fuel through the COG contract. And that's another company that does work with COG and Apex, which is one of the vendors for the fuel services. Brutus and Associate is engineering services for public works. They were selected through competitive bidding process. Center for Internet Security, this is a grant-funded project. In 2026, we spent $53,460 to cover grant-funded activities, cybersecurity trainings, and the CrowdStrike system that we acquired. Chesapeake Employers, this is a company providing our workers' compensation insurance. They were selected through a competitive bidding process through a broker, NFP. They are a new vendor for us in 27. As I mentioned, they are insured for workers' compensation. City Logics is our road and sidewalk assessment software. This is a new company for 2027. Council approved those contracts just recently for two separate projects. And this is a writable contract. Mr. Mayor, you talked about writable contracts. The next on the list is...
Mr. Summer, I didn't mean to force you to read all of the new vendors. We're on C, and it's a pretty long list. That's council's will. But I was kind of driving at, we're always kind of, many of us are always trying to find ways that we can support the local economy by, working with local vendors when possible. You're kind of balancing that with the best price, and so this is a process that's been in place for a while, and it's something we have to do. But in the coming years, is there some way that we can begin to put more of a focus on local entrepreneurial kind of businesses?
Our primary vendor selection is local vendors, and a lot of them are local vendors. There are some services we have to buy from whoever's the closest or whoever offers the best pricing. So with the vehicles, Apple Ford, I would say they're a local vendor. They're not in Greenbelt. There is no Ford dealership in Greenbelt, so we have worked with several Ford dealerships in the area. Just makes matters easier for us. Then there's other services that there's very few service providers for those services. So let's say Microsoft. If we are on the Microsoft platform, there's only one vendor for. Actually, there's people that are resellers for Microsoft, but we do not buy from resellers. We buy directly from Microsoft, and we're able to get a really good pricing. I think in being cost sensitive, that I would prefer that we continue to do that, to buy directly from Microsoft versus going from a local reseller. But yes, our preference is to find local vendors, and when not possible, we go with the next value. And I say value because it's not always about who is the cheapest, but who provides the greatest value to our residents for the services.
Any questions from council? Councilmember McKinney, you've got your hand up.
I do, thank you. Mr. Samarone, can you give us a sense of, how many of the total contracts that we typically approve in any given fiscal year might fall into this type of category?
In this list?
Mm-hmm.
We actually add the vast majority of our contracts here. So if you turn to item number 126, Clean Pools LLC, we spent $648 in 2026 with them. So we're actually giving you a comprehensive list of vendors.
And does it get reassessed every year? Because like one of the things that you're saying in here is that they're the best source of purchase. So like, is there a way every year that you're reevaluating whether or not they are the best source? So going to what the mayor was saying, we're hoping that more businesses throughout the area are growing. And so I would hate to not continue to go after new businesses that are being established because we are not, we continue to just approve ones that have been on this list and we don't reevaluate what's on that list. So I guess what I'm asking is, how do you continue to add to this list when new businesses and vendors are actually identified?
Excellent question. I think the highlighted areas of the new vendors for this year show that we are actively recruiting new vendors for services. So we do, for most of our projects, we ask for proposals or we put out RFPs to ensure that we're getting the best value for our dollars. We like to shop around, regardless of what the service is. We shop around, so I hope that you're able to see how much highlighted rows there are. That shows how many new businesses we're bringing onto our roster.
Well, thank you. Councilmember Fritz?
Yeah, I want to thank you for explaining all that. It's a very thorough list of vendors. Not a lot. Some names I'm not surprised to see on here. But to Councilmember McKinney's point, I'm always interested in ways that we can try to support both local enterprises, but also in our spirit here of Greenbelt, supporting cooperative enterprises and union enterprises. I know there's a couple printers on here. Some are union printers, some aren't union printers. And just kind of looking at that as another, because I think that's part of the value, right? Is how are we advancing, community investment? Are these high road employers that are, as we are trying to model now, having a good positive bargaining relationship with their workforce. So, and to our point about economic development, however we can support cooperative models, I think that further establishes Greenbelt as a model cooperative city.
Well, thank you. So at this time, I think we can take a couple of questions from the public. Is anybody online with a question?
No, I don't see any hands raised online.
Okay. Got one question
Question here. Sir, please.
Thank you, Bill Orleans. When this last came up a couple of meetings ago, I was informed by the city manager that the Greenbelt's living wage has been influenced by the larger living wage declared by the General Assembly this year. I don't know what that is. I haven't seen that legislation. I had not known it had passed, but I'm pleased that it had. So my same question from year to year will be that the stipulation, which is supposed to go to each of our vendors, that they should adhere to the living wage, will reference the new state legislation, whatever their determinant of the living wage is. Is that accurate, Mr. City Manager? That stipulation referencing the state in higher living wage declaration will be included as part of a stipulation in all of our contracts?
When I joined the team, we put together a form, an attestation form, asking the vendors to attest that they're paying living wage. After the creation of that form, we learned that the council's resolution requiring a living wage payment for the contractors, that resolution is superseded by state regulations requiring living wage payment. That it's also reinforced by counties' living wage standards. So our living wage resolutions lower than the state's regulation and the county's regulations. So in essence, all contractors are required by city law, county law, and state law to pay living wages.
And all I'm pleased to hear that. I assume that would be the case, but all I'm asking is that the stipulation which the city was putting into each of our contracts will now state that it's stipulated as well that they will adhere to the new state and/or county, should it be higher? I don't know that it is, but should it be? They will adhere to the higher living wage designation as it's possible for them to adhere to. That stipulation will remain in our contracts, right?
It is inherent to the requirement to do business in the city. So we do not have to, they do not need to attest to us that they're paying a living wage. They are required by law to pay the living wage.
Okay, thank you so much. And seeing no further comments, Madam Clerk, can you call the roll on this resolution, please?
Councilmember Fritz?
Yes.
Councilmember Niesel? Councilmember McKinney?
Yes.
Councilmember Poppy?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Weaver?
Yes.
Mayor Jordan?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay, thank you so much. That is going to bring us to item number 10 in the other business section of the agenda. And we need to discuss County Bill 069-2026. And that is a countywide ordinance concerning the use regulation for the purpose exempting certain private school uses in a residential zone from the requirement for special exemption approval. So this item, based on a review of the current draft of this proposed county council bill, discussions with representatives from St. Jerome's Institute Incorporated, and a review of the Advisory Planning Board's discussion and recommendation, staff recommends that City Council send a comment letter to County Council's PHED Committee in support of the proposed zoning text amendment, CB 069-2026, with the added amendment that municipalities with affected property should have the ability to evaluate site-specific items in an advisory capacity and add related conditions during the use and occupancy permitting process to include traffic circulation, parking, and recreation/outdoor facilities. So we've got a number of people here from St. Jerome's and St. Hugh's, I believe, and Jamie Fear, who is our acting director of community planning and community development, is here. You've been working with the parties involved on behalf of the city to kind of look into this county bill, which is moving forward, and you've also worked with the Advisory Planning Board to get their input. So can you give us a quick description of where this is and how it started and how we can influence the process?
Sure. So I will try to be quick. It's pretty technical, so if you have questions, I think that will help me to explain it. Otherwise, I can read through parts of the memo. But for background, this this bill, or the legislative drafting request, which precedes a bill, just came to the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, Prince George's County Planning Board, just about a month ago on June 18th. So this has been moving pretty fast in this sort of present moment. There have been discussions prior to that. What preceded the discussion, I guess, it's hard to see where to start the background, but we have a church on Crescent Road, and for approximately 60 years, St. Hugh of Grenoble Church, or St. Hugh, or affectionately known as St. Hugh's, operated a private Catholic school there, and that school was in continuous operation until 2009. And so since then, there hasn't been a school operating continuously in the school building, but other uses have been happening there, including religious education. I believe the police department uses the space. I know it's used for other community purposes. And the city all along has been steadfast in its support for St. Hugh to find a private school tenant to occupy that former school building. In early 2026, SJI, or St. Jerome Institute, well, let me back up. St. Jerome Institute is a private Catholic secondary school that currently operates in Washington, D.C. And they have been in conversations with St. Hugh and with the Archdiocese, in a broader perspective, about moving into taking tenancy, getting a lease over that school space at St. Hugh. Typically, and as required by the current county zoning ordinance, which we follow, because the school has not been in continuous use since 2009, and it is zoned as a rural residential zone, which I can explain a little bit more about, it would require what's called a special exception. And those are not uncommon. It is actually drafted into the zoning ordinance that certain uses will go through a special exception process. And what that allows is for the opportunity to review site conditions and operating conditions at that space to see if they're compatible with surrounding land uses. So traffic circulation would be reviewed, parking would be reviewed, things like that. We were approached, the city was approached by the St. Jerome Institute, and specifically by board member Don Benuin, who is here this evening and will be speaking, to talk about what options might exist separate from a special exception. The SJI, or St. Jerome, was finding that the special exception process might be too monetarily and time, and the process would take too long and cost too much for them to actually move forward with signing a lease with St. Hugh and being able to occupy the building in time to start the school year that they wanted to start. And so they were curious about the city's position on what's called a zoning text amendment. And again, a reminder that the city is only advisory to the zoning ordinance. It is the county zoning ordinance. So in a special exception process, we are still advisory to that process. And we have been most recently with the daycare facility that was proposed at LOL Station, and we were in support of that special exception. For other reasons, that special exception didn't end up following through all the way to the end, but that was, I think, more of a business situation than a zoning issue. So we responded initially, or city staff responded initially, that that designation as rural residential predates 1989, which, as we all know, is the date of our most current master plan on the city. And we are in discussions with the county on hopefully getting, moving that forward so we can have a more up-to-date master plan. And that pursuing that approval through the special exception process as required was what we supported at the time. And that we noted that our role in that process is advisory, and we would be able to provide, meaningful support throughout that process. Since then, we found out pretty late in the process, and interestingly enough, and I would love to find out why, we were not informed by the county that the legislative drafting request was in motion. And so that June 18th meeting at the planning board, the county planning board, was actually the public hearing for it. And we found out the day before and attended, but we were unable to testify or provide any comment. The zoning text amendment, as written, initially proposed to exempt certain private school uses located in the residential rural zone from the requirement for a special exception approval. And that changes. I think it's important to be clear that we're kind of talking about two things simultaneously. We're talking about St. Jerome and St. Hugh here on Crescent Road in Greenbelt, but the zoning text amendment changes that land use designation across the county. So it wouldn't just necessarily be in Greenbelt, but would be in any rural residential zone that fits what the bill ultimately says. And so county planning staff initially opposed the legislative drafting request on a number of points. And Mr. Matthew Tedesco, who may be online and will also have comment, and is representing St. Jerome, offered some amendments to try to ease up on some of those considerations. And so at the planning board meeting offered those amendments. I think they were in the packet, but it was after planning staff, not city planning staff, but county planning staff had presented or had finalized their staff memo in opposition. And so ultimately at the meeting, county planning staff changed their recommendation to approve the legislative drafting request with the amendments that Mr. Tedesco had provided, which would have changed the legislation to say residential zone, not just rural residential zone. And I think also added the language, and I have it here in the memo, and does not abut other residential property. I will note, and Mr. Tedesco may have a better idea, that the last, and at the time of my drafting of our staff memo, the last draft of the county bill still stated rural residential and had not changed. Well, in half of the writing of it still stated rural residential, and another paragraph later didn't. And so I'm not clear on that, but we still wanted to move forward. What I did also just notice this evening, we were hurrying to get this to you because we thought that the Planning, Housing, and Economic Development Committee of the County Council was meeting this Thursday. That meeting has been canceled. They do have a meeting. I just noticed this tonight while I was sitting in the audience. They do have a meeting next Thursday, but this is not on that agenda. So I don't know when it will show up, but we still want to submit a comment letter this week.
Very good, very good.
So, I'm sorry, and I know this is a lot. Ultimately, in speaking with the parties, the city had come to the conclusion that we would recommend that City Council send a comment letter to the County Council's PHED committees in support of the zoning text amendment with the added amendment, and I know you already read this, but I think it's important to repeat that the municipalities with affected property would have the ability to evaluate site-specific items in an advisory capacity and related conditions during the use and occupancy permitting process to include traffic, circulation, parking, and recreation outdoor facilities. You'll note APB actually had more conditions. That may be something you want to consider. We do not know the teeth of this actual proposal at this point, but it was an option where we thought the city may retain some advisory role in the process
Right.
In approving the land use, because we do have other rural residential zones within the city, primarily actually city-owned properties, including the community center and Public Works, which was interesting to me, as well as most of our religious institutions.
I guess one of the reasons for that is, that's the original zoning, 1937, and so it never really changed unless there was a development. So there's been no new development there. That rural residential designation stays in place. But, bottom line, so St. Jerome's Institute wants to use the St. Hugh School, which has
Correct.
been out of commission for a few years. The challenge is the zoning, rural residential zoning that's in place would not allow that use. So the way to approach it is a text amendment, special exception, or zoning text amendment?
Well, the way to approach it in the current zoning ordinance is a special exception process. What is being proposed by the county bill is to change the zoning change the zoning ordinance for the entire county to not have to do a special exception in certain uses, which would include utilizing a space that had previously been operated as a school in a rural residential zone that does not abut other residential properties.
Right, and I can see how that would be an attractive change for some churches in various locations throughout the county. So Mr. Tedesco, who is a land use attorney, is online right now, and I'm wondering, he's already promoted.
I'm here, Mr. Mayor. It's hard to hear you, but I'm happy to speak if now's the appropriate time.
Yeah, now is a good time. So nice to see you, Mr. Tedesco. Welcome. Go ahead. Can you hear me? Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Madam Mayor Pro Temps, members of council. My name is Matthew Tedesco with the law firm of McNamee Hosey in the great city of Greenbelt, 6404 Ivy Lane. Here on behalf of St. Jerome Institute, I believe Don is in the audience, probably with some other members, hopefully other members in support of this item this evening. I want to thank Jamie for her presentation this evening. We've been working since the planning board hearing, I would say, and I know Don has had communications with the city staff prior to Jamie and I getting involved and working through this process. I also want to thank the city manager, Josue, for his role and his review of this proposed piece of legislation that is countywide. Obviously, as written, it does affect the property at the St. Hugh's School, which is within the city of Greenbelt. So we appreciate the city's involvement and review of this piece of legislation. I'm not going to reiterate a lot of the points that Jamie made. I think she did an excellent job summarizing why we're all here this evening, and the staff report as well as the APB memorandum goes into greater detail. So I won't hit on those. But Mr. Mayor, you did hit the nail on the head with respect to what this text amendment seeks to do as it relates to the St. Hugh's property, which would facilitate St. Jerome's being able to relocate back to Prince George's County. Currently enrollment is around 70 students. The max enrollment would not exceed more than 130 students. And as Jamie mentioned, what this bill requires, although it is a countywide bill, it is limited to private school uses that have previously operated and been used as a private school. If someone were to be in a residential zone, whether it's RR or any other residential zone pursuant to what we anticipate will be draft 2 of the bill, and that private school had not previously occupied or been used on that property, this bill would not affect them. This bill is limited in circumstances to only properties for which a private school has or at one time operated. And as you all know very well, the St. Hugh's School operated for approximately 60 years from 1949 to 2009. It ceased at that time. However, it still continued with religious education through CCD classes and other items that Jamie had mentioned before. But because of that break in the chain with respect to continuous operation, the current ordinance is fairly restrictive in providing flexibility for these types of facilities on these types of properties to be reconstituted for their intended use and what they were developed and built as and previously operated as. So this bill seeks to simplify that with respect to obviating the requirement to have to go through the very lengthy and time-consuming special exception process, basically under the guise of testing for a new use when this really is not a new use. The special exception process in Prince George's County will take a minimum of 9 to 12 months, and it'll be with consulting fees and other types of application fees and everything that goes into it. It's about a 6-figure endeavor. And for a nonprofit like St. Jerome's, it is just too cost prohibitive. So we were asked to explore alternatives to reconstitute the use of the St. Hugh's School building for St. Jerome's. And so that's how we all ended up getting here. I want to thank the APB for its review. There was a meeting last week on that, and I want to thank staff for their quick turnaround. Jamie is correct. We were all operating with the assumption that CB 69 would be on the PHED committee on Thursday. That committee meeting has been canceled. The next one is on July 21st. That agenda does not include CB 69, but there is an opportunity potentially for CB 69 to be included. So we would ask that council tonight hopefully follow staff's recommendation and authorize the release of the letter supporting CB 69 in anticipation of hopefully this bill getting on the July 21st PHED committee meeting agenda. Turning to, and I'll wrap up because I know Don and others are there and want to speak, but turning to draft 2, there is not currently a draft 2 of CB 69, and it's not uncommon that once a legislative drafting request goes to the planning board, whatever bill form that was in when it went to the planning board, notwithstanding any recommendations or amendments by the planning board or by anybody from the public, it's typical that that draft is what is then presented for first reading at the county council. Oftentimes, those amendments, either recommended by the planning board or from municipalities if a bill affects property or from interested parties, those amendments occur either prior to or at the committee meeting. And that's what we expect here. We would ask, and we would be expecting the bill sponsor, Councilmember Adams, to make those amendments as recommended by me and adopted by the planning board and your staff have reviewed in such a way that that would take the form of draft 2, and hopefully that would be what's voted out of committee. If that occurs, just from a timing sequence, we still don't expect any action to be taken until September or October, given that this is a short legislative year because of the general election in November. The council must take action on all council bills before the end of October. So that's a segue to the items that staff has recommended with respect to additional oversight and what the APB also suggested.
Yeah.
What I would like to proffer, and I'll wrap up, what I would like to proffer is for us to work together with your staff as well as Mr. Pounds. And instead of overcomplicating this legislative bill, which is a countywide bill, to work with your staff and bring back to you a memorandum of understanding as it relates to some of those items regarding traffic, operational, the parks and things of that sort.
Thank
So
you
we
for-
can work those out so that there is.
Thank you for the very thorough overview. I didn't mean to interrupt, but we're sort of on a very tight timeline right here. This is an important issue. Councilmember Pompey has informed me that she is going to have to leave in about 20 minutes or so, and Councilman Fritz as well seems to have the gist of the proposal. I'm just wondering, one question I have, there are some different concerns that APB posed from what Mr. Tedesco is suggesting.
There were additional ones, but to Mr. Tedesco's point that I think he was trying to make at the end, I do think we should hear that because I think that may be an opportunity. Having an MOU rather than this sort of advisory capacity at a permitting process may be a better opportunity for the city in having some oversight into the use at St. Hugh, because there's no guarantee with DPI or really through the permitting process that we would be notified in time to have any advisory authority or to present any conditions on the permit. So it would be, I think that is something that we should consider. But yes, APB just added some additional considerations, and that could be a part of potentially that MOU. They went deeper into public safety, architecture, environment, and landscaping as well.
I actually like the idea of an MOU that gives us a little bit more certainty about being able to influence the process and kind of being clear on what the expectations and requirements would be. So I'm wondering, we don't know that this is going to be on the next agenda next week.
We don't know yet, yeah.
We don't know yet. So what is the best way to proceed? Can we approve a letter draft or authorize the city manager and staff to negotiate an MOU?
I guess I would potentially propose, I had gotten word before I knew that the meeting this week was canceled that we could turn in a comment letter tomorrow. So if it's possible to reconnect on language around what that MOU might look like, I could update the draft letter, which is in your packet, and maybe that language would just change, or perhaps it's fine to submit it the way it is to committee and just continue those conversations offline.
I would prefer the latter because I'm trying to, Mr. Mayor, and I know we're trying to wrap up. I'll be very quick. What we're trying to do is provide some level of certainty, not only for the city, but also for my client, and any side agreeing to open-ended things at the time of a permit condition could delay the permit, maybe not intentionally, but that's my concern. So I think having a letter of support with an understanding that the parties will enter into a separate MOU would be much easier and simpler and provide certainty for both sides.
And for whatever the reason, if we cannot reach an agreement on the MOU, that would be a sticking block. But I think we can work it out. Mr. Cimarron?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the MOU is essential because this is really a partnership. When the school is able to open, they'll need access to recreational facilities, which would be a relationship with the city anyway. So I like the approach of the MOU because we would already, it's a partnership, and any operations at the site will require some partnership agreement, MOU. So I think this is a good proposal to pursue the MOU.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, my only concern with that is that works for us because that's something that we're being offered for this situation. But as Ms. Fear has described, this is a zoning amendment that affects any other schools in this situation, any other places. And I don't know how many there are across the county. And so I guess my concern is that, yeah, right now we're being offered an MOU in a partnership with St. Hugh, but what if there's another location, if this zoning amendment goes in and there's another location and that private school is not willing to work with that municipality, then by supporting this without requesting those additional advisory capacities, we're making it harder for a future municipality to have any advisory capacity in this case because they might not be offered an MOU. So I guess thinking from Greenbelt's perspective, yeah, the MOU seems like it makes sense, but because this is being done as a zoning amendment for the entire county and not just a special exemption in this case, I am a little bit concerned about the implications of the stand we take now for other municipalities in the future. And I don't have any idea if there even have any other sites that fit this requirement in the county. But I do think that's worth at least mentioning and thinking about. And I don't know, Ms. Fear, if you have any thoughts on that.
So included initially in the documents for that June 18th meeting, there was a map of current private schools in the rural residential zone, and there are 11 across the county, but they are currently in operation. So as far as, I think they came up with, I don't want to misstate, but I believe they came up with one other site that would fall, or maybe it was 3. Most, if not all, properties that were previously used it's adjacent. I think the key language there is adjacent or abutting a residential zone, and a lot of these are, and that would mean they would not fall into that category. My understanding is that even though our residential zone is across the street, the center line of the street may be where the abutment stops. And so that this property doesn't count as abutting residential property. But I don't know the exact number. I just know that the county had mapped out the current private schools in rural residential zones, and I'd have to go back through their planning, county planning staff's memo to see if they mentioned other properties that might be affected. But again, that was the initial language and not the proposed amended language.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Councilman Fritz, did you have were you going to make a motion?
No, I was just going to make a point to Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Weaver's point. Of those 11, now that we know 11 so far listed sites, not all of them, I presume, are in incorporated municipalities as well, so that would also limit the potential stakeholders who would be able to give feedback. I'm
Well, they were
assuming.
just counting what current schools existed in the rural residential zone. So this legislation wouldn't affect those necessarily unless they stopped operating and wanted to
Right.
reopen. Yeah.
So let me see if I can make a motion that City Council, I'd like to move that City Council send a comment letter to County Council, to the PHED Committee, in support of the proposed zoning text amendment CB 069-2026, with the caveat that an MOU can be negotiated regarding the impacts and the city being able to weigh in on various conditions related to use and occupancy permitting. Anybody want to second that?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. And let me just ask Ms. Fear, did my motion just capture the spirit of what Mr. Tedesco was asking?
I think it's still, that's a good question. I think it's still mentioned the use and occupancy permit, which we may be setting aside at this point.
So I need to amend the motion?
I believe so. If you want to pursue the MOU route, then we would need, I think we would just be removing the use and occupancy permitting process. We would include the items that we want to cover as a
Okay.
part of the MOU. It would be a slight change to language in the drafted memo.
Okay, I'd like to withdraw my motion. Is that okay with the seconder? Would you like to make a motion? No, I can do it. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I move that City Council send a comment letter to County Council regarding the PhD committee that County Bill 69-2026 in support of the proposed zoning text amendment with the added caveat that an MOU be negotiated, which will address the concerns of traffic circulation, parking, recreation, outdoor facilities, and other items.
I believe it would be affecting this paragraph that's toward the end of
Yes.
toward the end of the draft letter.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you so much. Mr. Burnham, would you like to, could you concisely just say a couple of words? Yeah. Thank you.
I just want to say, like, this is something that St. Jerome's Institute and St. Hugh's have been in discussion about for 2 years. And it has been sort of a fight every step of the way. And for the board at SJI, the idea that we could have an easier path by staying in DC where we're currently located, or going to Montgomery County where it would have been super easy, has come up. But the reality is the vast bulk of our students are coming from Prince George's County. And we are committed to Prince George's County. And every time an obstacle has come up, like the entire zoning process and everything else involved, it has actually strengthened our resolve, because we have seen that no schools have opened in PG County, no private schools. And from our perspective, that building at St. Hugh's was built to be a school. We are trying to return it to its original use. We desperately want to be part of this community. we haven't considered seriously sites other than St. Hugh's because it's a uniquely great fit for our school. And we have been fighting for 2 years to get in there. We see that another educational option would be beneficial to the county. We see that the economic development for sort of an under sort of maintained site would be beneficial. We see that the resources that our school could bring to St. Hugh's could help restore a building that's falling apart and bring economic development to the city of Greenbelt. So we really need desperately the city of Greenbelt's support to get the zoning text amendment through so we can continue to pursue that.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate your passion and your your patience. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, and I think if we can, I think as long as we can get a say in some of these things, and if an MOU is the best way to do that, and if including that in the letter, I don't have concerns about this specific project. I just don't want to have unintended consequences for some other project down the line where another municipality doesn't get a say when there are greater concerns. I think it's an excellent idea to refurbish the school and have it become a new school. I'm not concerned about this location at all. I just, because it's such a broad stroke, I'm worried about us creating, we're not creating it. We're not passing anything. The county council's passing it. I just am worried about creating unintended consequences for somebody else. But I think if we can finagle the language in such a way that I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, thank you so much. Let's go ahead and take a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Ms. Fear, thank you for your work with APB and your work in general. And Mr. Tedesco, appreciate your input and your constant working with the county on so many different land use bills that affect Greenbelt and other municipalities. So thank you for your service. And to the folks from St. Jerome's and St. Hugh's, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Have a great evening.
Yeah, thank you so much. Hey, yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, we're at 9:25, so I would like to, as per our standing rules, move to extend our meeting for half an hour until 10 o'clock.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Discussion, please.
Aye.
Discussion?
Yeah, I cannot stay beyond the 9:30 tonight, so I would prefer us to go ahead and table the rest of the items until the next meeting. I think, other council members who have had hard stops, that's been honored in the past, and I'd like that to be honored for me tonight. And I'm sorry we didn't get to these things, but I can't support moving forward. I think that, I cannot be here. I have to leave. So I don't think any of these things need to happen tonight. So I'd like to move them forward to the August, 9th meeting.
Let me ask a question about the demolition, the armory grant. That's time sensitive, is it not?
Yeah, the grant application for that is August 6th.
So that does need to happen tonight.
It does need to happen.
It does need to happen tonight.
We can act on that in the time remaining. I would look favorably.
Okay,
on
I
the
move
motion.
to, so I will withdraw my motion to extend the meeting, and instead I move to special order item 16, DHCD Strategic Demolition Fund grant application.
Is there a second? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? The motion carries. So this is a discussion item. It would actually, it's Strategic Demolition Fund grant application, Greenbelt Armory. The Armory existing conditions analysis identified significant structural, environmental, and mechanical deficiencies that need to be addressed for the building to be usable. And staff is requesting authorization to seek out funding. There's a particular demolition grant that may be available. City Manager Summerone, you had stated that it's a competitive kind of a grant, so it's not something that we would necessarily be able to land first time around. But there was some urgency on your part about getting this application in.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. Is there a motion for us so I can discuss this?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I would like to move that we authorize the city manager to proceed with proposing a grant and contracts proposing for the grant, and we authorize the proceeding with the demolition of the main Armory building and the adjacent modular building, the temporary building, including seeking state DHCD funding to offset the costs.
Is there a second?
Second.
I heard Mr. Fritz the loudest.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, you're correct. Getting these types of projects funded are not a first-time approach. They can take many years to get funded. All of the concept plans that were presented to council include demolition of this site. We would like to start that process because we anticipate this being a multi-year approach to secure $1 million for demolition of the Armory facility. This is just the Armory facility and it does not touch the garages.
Okay, I thought I heard in your motion, Mayor Pro Tem, that your motion did include the garages and the
No.
ancillary areas.
I said the Armory building and the adjacent modular building, not the garages. The garages will remain as noted in the staff request. So just the Armory and that adjacent modular building that's falling apart anyway.
And we had agreed to demo that adjacent building.
Adjacent building, yeah. My concern is, I just feel like we haven't really brought the public along on this. We talked and looked at the three proposals. There was a bit of discussion about what would come next, but I think this is going to come as a shock to a lot of members of the public, although it's implied by the three proposals that we did cover. Councilmember Niesel.
Thank you. I certainly appreciate that this may come as a shock to certain residents. However, as you stated, all three options did imply that the building would need to be torn down, and I think it's very essential that we seek out funding, especially when it's specifically for this type of work.
Other comments?
I think we should move forward.
Okay. We do have a couple of comments. There's one here. Please, sir.
Yeah, Frank Gervasi again from 163. As you recall, I put in a petition. I had about 60 signatures from neighbors to consider the use of the existing armory. I think it's a beautiful building. I don't think it's fallen apart. I've been in construction my whole life. And, you know, developers always want to knock things down so they can build new. You make a whole lot of more money that way. To destroy something without even a plan of what you're going to put there is going to leave a vacant lot, you know, with rubble strewn. That's going to be really pretty. I think it's a beautiful building. I think it's structurally, you know, sure it needs work, but you know what? I think it's real fixable. So without a plan, and I do think that the plan for a New Deal Heritage Center, a New Deal Museum, is really important for Greenbelt, especially now. Am I out of time here? So I've only talked 50 minutes.
Time.
I'm sorry? There's a 9:30 cutoff that was instituted with the council rules, so we have to try and bring the meeting to an end.
You know, you've let me talk for a minute. I feel very passionate about this. How many signatures could I collect before you maybe reconsider knocking it down without even a plan? You know, I went to both those work sessions. It's like saying, you know, there's a million options and here's three, you know, and what do you think of the three? Well, I didn't think much in all of the three, really. I mean, they were all generic, sort of, you know, old folks home or something. And those are all nice, but they weren't realistic and they weren't real plans. They were just concepts. So, all right, you know, you guys are going to do what you're going to do, but I am totally dead set against this. You know, without moving forward with a plan, I'm not going to, you know, anyway.
Thank you. I do think it's a beautiful building. I do also agree that it's structurally unsound, particularly parts of it. So, and further, I do feel like this kind of a grant opportunity, it's going to take a few years to actually land the grant. So I am support in seeking the grant out while we develop the plan. We do need to begin to take some steps and figure out what's next. There's no developer involved. It's just the city trying to pursue this funding that we will probably not get first time around. So without, I don't see any other comments. Anybody care to?
Time, so we should take a vote on the motion on the floor.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
No.
No? Thank you.
No.
Okay. So that's 5-1. Let's go ahead and close the meeting out. It's 9:30 unless the council member wants to make a motion to continue. Can I please have a motion?
So moved. Motion to close the meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you very much.